I was fired for the first time in my life. For the first time in Switzerland, specifically German speaking, and especially after almost being tricked with the contract, guess what? By an Italian, not by Swiss or other types of people. Well, yes, folks, I have just been fired. It happened a few days ago. I took a few days to do certain things that I will now tell you about to calm down a bit, because I was very disappointed, more than angry, truly disappointed. As you know, I have already been fired before in my previous job. And on this topic, there are 2 videos on the channel that explain it better to you. Because I wasn't fired, but my contract was changed, and then I decided to quit for various reasons. I then found another job in a small Italian restaurant, still here in the area, and things seemed to be going well. At the beginning, many promises, many things. I don't yell, I don't do this. Then I found myself in a place where the person instead yelled through pans. Sometimes they had sudden fits of anger due to work stress, and honestly, when these things happened, I tried to distance myself a bit and say everything's fine, stay calm, etc., etc. It wasn't easy. Those were really complicated 3 months, even though I tried not to show it, and it was a place that really messed with my mind. It was messing with my brain, okay? But I need a job. I'm here because I work, and I need a job to stay here. I have a house to pay for, so more than 2-3 months at most, I can't go without working. And even there, if I stay without a job for so long, I find myself in trouble right after, since no one pays me anything and things here are expensive. We're talking about if I were to limit myself simply to working and eating, paying as little as possible for food. At the very least, it costs me 500 euros a month just for my food, and I'm talking about really discount food. I'm not talking about eating whatever I want, however I want. And if I have to pay all the expenses, simply the bare minimum, considering that in the end, the 2 insurances, the car insurance and the mandatory work insurance, I pay them in January. So in January, I get hit with a huge blow of 3,000 euros, 3,400, almost 5,000 euros just for insurance. Then I'm left with only the rent and the garage. In short, I basically need at least 2,500 euros a month. I have to earn this money to be able to stay here without saving anything, simply by living, working, and eating. It's doable, okay? It's doable. I could dedicate some time to YouTube, which is currently just a hobby for me. It's not like it feeds me, or I could do other things. I mean, I'm really doing a lot of things. So having a bit of free time is actually welcome. The fact is, anyway, going back to the previous job, I was fired out of spite, okay? I was fired as a demonstration of disappointment on my part towards him, also because I was fired on the 16th with a 3-day notice, and I was simply asked to take my things and leave. When I was supposed to finish working there on the 21st, my contract was ending on the 21st, after which it was my idea, and there's already a video about this on the channel, to propose being fired so that, since this person needs to renovate the entire place in January, so that he wouldn't have to pay me, since I wouldn't be working for a month. So I proposed to be fired so that he could pay a bit less in January. And even there, because I'm stupid, because I said, for a month I can survive. I took on a lot of jobs in October and December. I was doing 3, including YouTube. So my time was stretched thin. I was always really very, very tired, but I managed. I was able to save enough money to get by. January and February were calm, so to cover the expenses in advance, the essential ones like insurance. And the 2 months rent for the house and the garage, both for January and February. So I expected to go back to work there, okay? Even if I'm honest, I was already looking around because doing 3 jobs was really tiring, and finding myself with someone constantly yelling at me and not allowing me to do my job, because the moment you touched something, it was all completely wrong. I just couldn't stand it. But, you know, maybe at the beginning I would have gone back so that he would be covered for a few months, and then I would gradually look for something else. Instead, I found myself from one day to the next being fired, left without a job, with bills to pay. Even though, yes, it's true, now I will take a month to disconnect, a month to dedicate myself to various projects, including you. So you will see many nice things on the channel. I hope you like them. I know you prefer only the work, the videos about Switzerland, but guys, this, as I have already mentioned in a video, which is this one here, does not want to, cannot, and should not be a single theme channel about Switzerland. So you will also have to see other things with the intent of making you grow fond of me. Not just the videos about Switzerland. For that, there are other people like Switzerando360 or Lores in the Schweiz, or other channels, Dario Nicola. There are really many who talk only about Switzerland. So if you want and are not interested in me as a person, what I'm up to, yes, also videos about Switzerland, then this is not the channel for you. That said, I suddenly found myself without a job I still don't know if I will be fully paid for the entire month, as I was promised, because I was fired on the 19th. I was supposed to work until the 21st, and then there would be the holidays. We'll see at the end of this month what I will receive with the last paycheck, if it arrives, if there are no tricks, because at this point, honestly, I wouldn't even know what to expect. I really hope to be able to conclude this whole charade and get that money so I can pay for things. And then little by little move forward. Now I'll explain a little bit. The dynamics of what happened. When I was given the first work contract, my request was for my salary. Over 13 months. Okay, the salary was lower than what I had before. However, here we work 4.5 days. So it was acceptable. In fact, we had also promised that after 3 months of work, if everything went well, I would also get a raise. But beyond that, the request was still for my salary over 13 months. By law, in the restaurant sector, there are 13 months. I then found myself with the first paycheck, obviously after requesting it for several days because it wasn't given to me when it was supposed to be. The payment and even the payment itself was made late. Upon seeing the paycheck, I noticed that the months are 12 and not 13. In fact, 13 months were made, but they were included in 12 months. So instead of finding myself with my salary, I ended up having less. Basically, a month's salary was missing from my paycheck. Having said that, I pointed this out and was told it was a bug error. Alter meaning the accountant who handles the paychecks. In short, the person responsible for the paychecks. Honestly, for me, I've already had experiences like this in Italy, so I didn't really believe it, but I let it go because maybe it really happened. Due to the accountant or whoever handles the paychecks. In short, at the end of the day, I don't really know. And the benefit of the doubt anyway is something that should be given because I can make mistakes too. We all can make mistakes. The purpose of my hiring was to become a cook and to be able to take that person's place in the kitchen when he's not there. I later found out that he wanted to put me in the kitchen permanently and he wanted to handle a part of the pizzeria that wasn't open yet, but would be opened with the renovation. And at that moment, it was fine with me. It's just that a month goes by, I more or less learn things, so where's the problem? The moment I have to start cooking, nothing is right. If I ask for an explanation, more than once, I get attacked. If I start doing it, it's not right. Nothing, but then when I throw it away, it's fine, but then it's not fine. In short, this whole situation isn't clear to me, so I talk about it. Even with him, no, you're doing fine. No, yes, it takes a bit of time, etc., etc. I was reassured in many quotes, and I went back to work. Of course, I noticed that when I take the place of the person cooking, I feel a sort of annoyance. For his part, then I simply limited myself to watching and not taking any initiative in the cooking, and given that in any case, above all, nothing was going well, so I limited myself to doing the washing, to walking around, to making the salads, to plating the dessert, and the person in question took care of cooking all the things at the moment. Even though I helped him and prepared most of the things for him. So he only had to cook and serve, and even there, I helped with the plating. I did. So let's say it's not that I wasn't working, absolutely, I did more than 50% of the tasks. Yes, he did the more important things, which honestly I could have easily done myself, except that I, not being him, cannot do things exactly like he does. I can do them similarly, I can do them well, but they cannot be exactly the same. Also because if I then ask you for explanations about that recipe and you explain it to me 3 times, but all 3 times it's different because you don't use weights, you don't use measurements, but you go by feel. And each time you add and remove something and maybe you don't even remember. I find it very hard to remember all these things. And then one time I make it this way and it's not right. Another time I make it that way and it's not right, of course, because which one is the right one? Good question. The same thing happened, for example, with the amount of pasta we put in each day. For example, the ravioli per day at lunch were 8 ravioli. Then they became 7, then on another day 6. I would take 8 and they would get scolded because they were supposed to be 7. I would take 8, then 7 and they would get scolded because they were supposed to be 6. Then I would take 6 and they would get scolded because we always put 8. So excuse me, how am I supposed to understand now? What should I do? Then it got a bit chaotic because there was a period of banquets. I'm quite good with banquets, even better than with regular cooking. I've always worked with banquets, but to execute a banquet without issues, you need to discuss it beforehand. I had to ask more than 2, 3, 4 times for explanations on how the banquet should be organized, feeling annoyed and bothered. I was given them, especially that day when we had 4 banquets at the same time, and everything always went well. He took care of the main course and I handled the salads, plating, and desserts, and everything else that revolved around that banquet there. Except for one time, which was also there, a half Sunday when we worked, but I wasn't paid extra for it because the number of my hours was less than what I was supposed to do, in theory. Even though there would be 1,000 caveats because it's a holiday, it should be paid double. But anyway, let's drop it. Let's say that overall, in the desire to have a contract, I told him it doesn't matter if we do that extra half Sunday a month. I'm not going to nitpick about the hours like you. You don't nitpick about the hours when I do fewer in those months when there's nothing. Okay? And the agreement mainly was this. Where's the problem? This person got sick, had a heart attack. And with the heart attack, aside from the fact that he shouldn't be working in the kitchen, but anyway, let's leave that aside. There are consequences, especially health-related, and particularly concerning memory. So there are moments when he can't speak. There are moments when he gets confused, moments when he doesn't remember things. I sat down with him to write the banquet, I was told. And his colleague with whom he argues, with whom he has argued, whom he says treated him badly throughout the entire year. And he wanted to fire her, but in the end, he didn't do it after speaking badly about her for 3 months. With me, he even heard it and came to tell me that the salads he mentioned were 9. Okay, it's true that we had more than 20 people, of which 14 were adults, the others were children. So they ate their cutlet with fries, and 9 ate one dish, and 4 ate another dish. So I understood that the adults were 14, but how am I supposed to know that all 14 want salad? If you tell me 9 salads, I prepare 9 salads right then and there. At that moment, I also asked, okay, the new salads are ready, everything's fine, is that okay? I was told yes, because he didn't think about it. But if he doesn't think about it and doesn't double check, everything's fine. But if I ask, I'm given wrong information and I do it, it's absolutely not okay. I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing. It's not his fault, that stuff is my fault. All right, I took the blame with the promise that we would discuss it again by the following Sunday. We sat down, we talked. I was practically, for an hour, I was accused of being terrible, of not knowing how to work, this and that, even though literally I get called to do extra shifts at my previous workplace. So it's not that I don't know how to work, you see, and maybe I don't work the way he wanted, but I repeat, I can't be him. I am a different person. I work in a way that's a bit more modern. He works in a more old-fashioned way, but the results are the same, okay? But no, it had to be, exactly as he said. And unfortunately, I can't read minds, especially because when I asked him things, I either didn't get answers or I got answers in a very annoyed manner, let's say. After 45 minutes of being told that I'm basically terrible, I'm told, yes, but don't worry, the contract is ready. It will be ready by February. Now we'll redo it with the things you asked for, namely to include the 13th month salary as it should be. It wasn't a special request and that's it. You just sign it and that's it. So I arrive at the beginning of the last week on Tuesday to work because we rested on Sunday and Monday and already in the morning. I'm being asked questions about the contract. Oh, look, the accountant didn't pay that tax. I have to deduct it from you. Look at the accountant. She made a mistake over there. You know that this thing is like this. You know that this thing is like this. I responded and said yes. But if you want, we can talk about it later because right now we need to work. And he said to me, but you're the one who came asking for things. When I went to work, I didn't ask about contracts. I just worked. Absolute nonsense. I didn't ask for anything. I simply came to work. But he was already angry with me from before. There was also a discussion about a raise in the new contract, which I ultimately didn't ask for because I wouldn't have stayed past February and March anyway. And I would have found another job by April, since the season starts again here. Literally nothing was ever right, and he would yell, throw pans, etc., etc., not at me. However, for me, it's not nice. I mean, you're there with someone banging pans in the sink. It's not a pleasant thing. You couldn't ask him anything. He had fits of rage, literally. If I approached him, so I was here to take something from up there, he would make a scene. And honestly, I felt and had come to the conclusion that it was wrong. Me who couldn't do it, me who wasn't adequate, me apparently. Then it turned out that it wasn't like that, simply. Working with a person who blocks you so much that you're afraid to pick up a pen. He doesn't allow me to work calmly, to do my job as I should and as he would like. That said, we reached the day when I had to sign the contract. I was told the contract will be given to you tomorrow, and I said, okay, but I need an evening to read it because we work during the break in the morning and evening. I go to the gym in the evening, I'll translate it, read it, and then bring it back to you signed. He got angry, grumbled all morning. Then at 2, he calls me and says, come, we have to do something. I go with him to the office. I'm presented with the dismissal paper, which I later understood was the dismissal paper, and I'm told I didn't want to do it. This thing, however, since you don't trust and need to have the contract checked, I had also said that I have a friend who is a German lawyer, who can check it for me, who also handles work contracts, which is true. He got angry because why should someone get angry if your employee wants to read the contract before signing it? It is your sacred right. Because he was probably scheming, like in the previous contract, where you blame the accountant, some nonsense, to make me sign so that in the end, one way or another, I end up getting screwed, let's say. I wanted my contract with my 13th month pay, with my money, as agreed from the first day of work 3 months earlier. He got angry and started mumbling and trembling. He tells me, but if you have to check, then sign this dismissal. I didn't want to do it, but it's only fair. I will fire you in 3 days. And he did it with the intention of making me say, no, please don't fire me because I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go, with the intention of teaching me a lesson. Instead, since that morning was so heavy, the hours wouldn't pass. It was truly a nightmare. I saw the pen in his pocket. I took the pen, I signed, and I said to him, please, you sign too. Since there were 2 copies, I told him to sign both. He goes, huh? But why? Because this way I signed one and you signed one, and the problem is solved. We no longer have any kind of problem. He told me that he would pay me for the entire month as he should, with vacation, etc., etc. I hope he really will, because otherwise he's a bastard more than that. I mean, I wouldn't know what to say. But I really hope he has a shred of conscience and will do it. I took my things, went outside to say goodbye to my colleagues who said, hey, see you later. And I said, no, we won't see each other anymore because I've been fired. And they didn't know, they were left speechless. I shook his hand anyway and said, goodbye, we'll keep in touch. And he said, yes, we'll keep in touch. And so it ended. I was fired. Well, honestly, I would be lying if I told you that at the moment he asked me to sign the dismissal, also because he decided to fire me within the first 3 months. So I couldn't refuse. I felt relieved, guys. I lifted a weight off my shoulders, a burden that was weighing especially on my mind and heart. Because I was always trying to help this person, because I knew he had had problems. And when I was feeling unwell, I would ask him how he was. I would ask if he wanted me to step in. And this, on his part, was always perceived as an annoyance. So it's clear that he didn't appreciate at all anything I was trying to do for him. I know I'm not perfect. I'm not an amazing cook, but I'm someone who learns quickly if you let me. But you have to let them do it. And it wasn't easy. I already knew that place wasn't for me, and maybe that was the best thing. Now I have to survive without a job here, and I can't even register for the RAF, which is Swiss unemployment, because to do so, in the last 2 years of residence, here you need to have at least 1 full year of work, and I'm 3 months short of completing a year of work. That said, however, I was lucky because I had previously sent out some resumes, especially to a place where I occasionally went to have a drink, a beer where it's full of Italian waiters, and the head waiter told me, try sending your resume here, as we are opening 2 more restaurants on the lake, and soon they will be looking. I sent my resume while I was still working. I was called for an interview, which was the day before the day of start. The contract was staged here, and the day after I was fired, I went to do a trial for 2 or 3 hours. Honestly, the chef is a woman. She's very nice. I felt really comfortable talking to her. She's an understanding person. Maybe I made a mistake, but I told her a bit about what happened to me, and she also had similar experiences. Here I worked mornings and evenings, and sometimes I arrived earlier. Sometimes I left later. In the other places where I will start in April, we will work a single shift. We will have 2 days off, and sometimes maybe even 3, depending on the shifts. Yes, there might be some extra hours to work, but everything is clocked in with the timestamp. So if I work extra hours, I get paid. It's true that the salary isn't very high to start with, but there's the possibility of a raise every 3 to 6 months. If things go well and you prove that you are good at what you do. And at the moment, honestly, my concern and my fear was that I wasn't enough for a Swiss restaurant. And I wasn't enough to work with a Swiss chef because they have very high quality standards. I told her about this fear of mine, and she said to me, and don't worry, if there's something you don't know, I can always teach you. But what matters to me is that you are someone who is interested, who wants to work with me, who is a good person, a person with character, but who is kind, who doesn't yell, who doesn't shout. And then everything else can be learned easily, and it might take a little time. But I am sure you can do it. I almost felt like crying, honestly, because it would be my dream job. I could continue cooking, which I enjoy, and not do it like a machine. 24 hours a day, morning and evening, having at least a little, right? A little bit of personal life. So I am really happy. I can't wait to start here and open. In the meantime, in February and March, I will need to find something to make it to the end of the month. Here, even delivering pizza, I don't mind something. I will do. I will make some work calls to some restaurants, and even the chef herself has offered in giving me a hand with some extra work with some of her friends. I am really happy. I am also very happy to take some time for myself now. Almost a month of rest because I am exhausted, guys. I am limping. I have worked so much while also training that I am literally limping. I can't feel one foot. It hurts a lot. I would also like to take this time to try to learn a bit more. German, actually start because I never had time to do it. Focus a bit on the channels because I plan to open more, but I made a video about this, which is this one. Here, take a few half days of rest where I completely switch off my brain. I will still try not to miss out on making videos and will bring you something new that I hope you will like. This bad experience of mine in this place is over. I don't recommend it to anyone if you are in a similar situation. Guys, escape as soon as possible or hold on as long as you can. But remember that a hair transplant due to stress is really very expensive, so it must be worth it, at least in terms of salary. And in this case, it was absolutely not worth it. It was a nightmare. I'm glad it's over. I don't hate this person. I have nothing against them. It's better that it ended this way rather than finding myself. in 2 months having problems, maybe because certain taxes and things weren't paid. Let's end it here, and it's better this way. This is the story of how I was officially fired for the first time in my life, and I was fired here in Switzerland by an Italian from Calabria. Not that where you come from matters, but still, I might have expected something from a Swiss or another type of person. Instead, I was kicked out by an Italian, and not even for valid reasons. However, I'm happy that my unemployment lasted 1 day, which actually could be 3 months, because yes, it's true that they are making the contract for me. But the real work will start in mid-March. This means that I am worth something after all, and it's not true that I'm worth nothing. It's not true that I'm not good. I was considered among many other candidates, and I don't even speak German. In fact, I speak English in a place where people speak German. Actually, no, there are also many Italians. I am truly proud of it. I hope not to disappoint the person who has placed their trust in me, and I hope to be able to do an excellent job. And finally, have a company I am proud of, doing a job I am proud of, which also allows me to have a bit of a social life. That said, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story. I haven't exaggerated nothing, everything corresponds to the truth, to my truth, what I have experienced. Write to me below in the comments what you think. If I did well, if I did poorly, I don't know, just write it below. And we'll see each other next time. Please though, like, share, subscribe, activate the bell, tell me your stories below if you too have experienced abuse, in many quotes, because yes, well, in the end, they are on a verbal level. Of this kind here in Switzerland, or if it only happened to me, although I doubt it, because I've already heard stories like this, even in this place. Here with the previous cook. But well, let's not get into details. It's better that way. Subscribe to the channel because most of you rascals follow me, watch my videos, but aren't subscribed. And we'll see each other in the next video, hoping it's not a video where I get fired again, because that would be really depressing. Thanks again, and we'll see each other next time.